want to transition now into some fun here because, well, Mike Leach gave us a tweet that we all have to think about, and I want to read it word for word here and give you our spin on what we think of as, well, longest odds in college football. The tweet is that horse winning the Kentucky Derby today is a good example of why an expanded college football playoff is needed. That horse hadn't won all the races leading up, but it got its chance, and that's what happened. Now, if it sounds like Mike Leach is a watcher and listener of the number one ranked show, I wouldn't put it past him because this is what I've been saying for the better part of a year plus, right? Since we started doing the number one ranked show last April, I have said expand the playoff, you cowards, right? All the time, all the way through, even caping for teams like Texas, San Antonio, right? Because I believe that if you are winning every game, you should have an opportunity to play for the national championship. And I believe that you should get perhaps even a mulligan if you lose a couple of games because you play some good opponents. So like Georgia Clemson, had Clemson won the ACC title, right? Come all the way through. I thought that perhaps, yeah, nobody would have looked at that Georgia loss and thought anything of it because it's Georgia, right? Put them in the college football playoff with the one loss to Georgia. I'm fine with that. We see in the SEC all the time. What I'm not fine with is other teams that aren't in the Power Five or even quote unquote lesser teams in the Power Five putting together outstanding seasons, magical seasons, and not having an opportunity to play for a national championship. 2017 Central Florida is my favorite example of this, right? They go 13-0. They beat Auburn in the Peach Bowl, and they have to claim a national championship. They don't get to play Alabama for a national championship. It doesn't matter that I and you believe that Alabama might beat the brakes off of the UCF. It's that you deserve the opportunity to do that. But that said, I believe the odds for Rich Strike to win the Kentucky Derby were 80-1. So I went to FoxBet, and I wanted to know who has the longest odds that are on the board to win the national championship. And I came up with 5 teams that I thought have a pretty good shot to win a national championship, even if the odds do not favor them. And this ain't the Hunger Games, baby, but maybe it might be because if you're one of these teams and you take an L, it's going to be hard for you to get into the college football playoff national championship or even the semifinals. So let's start with the first one here, right? Penn State at plus 7,500. Okay, I made 2 notes for myself here in the rundown. One was Sean Clifford. The other one is Manny Diaz. Sean Clifford turns 24 in July. That is how long he has been playing college football. Now, last dude that I decided to be like, I don't know about that. That dude turns 24 and is going to be playing quarterback in college. That's not necessarily a good look. Ended up being Kenny Pickett. He's a first-round draft pick to the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? Can't be wrong. It's fine. Maybe age is something like wine, right? Gets better. We'll see. But it's also going to be his second year in Mike Yurcich's scheme. We know what kind of a play caller and coordinator Mike Yurcich is. He's pretty doggone good at Ohio State. He was great at Oklahoma State. Wanted to be a little bit better perhaps at Texas, but I think that he's going to have an opportunity to really put Sean Clifford in some great situations. They got a little bit, I don't want to say better because Jahan Dotson was really, really good for Penn State, but they got a little bit more even at wide receiver, getting some transfers in. And of course, everything's going to be on Parker Washington on that game. And we'll see what Nick Singleton ends up being. But if the weight room is any indication, that dude's a monster. And then there's Manny Diaz, who's replacing perhaps one of the better defensive coordinators in the Big Ten last year, if not nationally, and Brent Pry, who's the new head coach at Virginia Tech. Manny Diaz lost his seat. That's an F1 reference. There's one on the counter. Lost his seat at Miami. He's going to be a defense coordinator at Penn State. But I love what Jair Brown had to say about his new defense coordinator. He gave this quote to The Athletic. I think if Coach Manny Diaz had some years left, he would go out there and play with us. He's that good. Manny's a fiery guy. And I like a fiery defense coordinator. As a matter of fact, I kind of look at you sort of sideways if you're not a fiery guy as defense coordinator, which is to say I'm drinking all the Brent Venables Kool-Aid as it denotes that stuff. But want to move from them. Well, no, I do want to mention the circle game because I have this note in here about circle games. Circle games being on the calendar, you have to circle that game on the schedule, right? That's one that we're all going to be paying attention to. And for them, it's September 17th at Auburn. Remember, they won that game in Happy Valley last year, and that is the one for which I was having an open discussion here on the number one ranked show about, is the Big Ten a better conference than the SEC? Turned out, bore out, we had 2 SEC teams in the national championship game, Alabama and Georgia, so it's really difficult to make that call. But it didn't look too good for Auburn, right? So much so that Brian Harsin was having to fight for his job in February. I dare say he's not going to be able to survive another loss to Penn State. And for James Franklin, it would be absolutely amazing for him to get the double over an SEC West opponent like Auburn, a team that won the national championship 12 years ago. Okay, moving to the next one here. These are all plus 10,000, but the start here is Oklahoma State Cowboys. I have notes here for myself about Spencer Sanders being the guy that is returning. It wasn't that long ago that being here in the state of Oklahoma and doing a solo sports talk show from 9 to 11 a.m. in my hometown, I would have the inevitable conversation about when is Spencer Sanders going to get the job. Because that was Mr. Texas football coming out of Denton Guyer. We all wanted to see that dude play. Now it feels like he's never going to leave. I'm joking here, but Spencer's been around for a lot. And more importantly, he's survived a lot. He's also seen some dudes go into the portal himself, right? Shane Illingworth, a dude that I was really high on, has decided to transfer to Nevada. That's actually a pretty good move for him. I think he's going to do well with Jay Norvell out there. Desmond Jackson, outstanding running back for them. He transferred to Sam Houston State. Jarek Bernard Converse, cornerback for them. He transferred to LSU. And of course, Tanner McAllister, a safety, transferred to Ohio State. Mike Gundy did not get anybody of significance or anybody at all, I believe, out of the transfer portal, but that's not usually his get down, right? His get down is to go get kids that he feels are under recruited and undervalued, give them a couple years to grow up and take that redshirt year to the full hilt, and then let them go out there and play. It's been working for him, right? Especially when he recruits the area in which he and I live. Go get Brennan Presley. Go get his brother Braylon Presley. Turn Malcolm Rodriguez into your dude in the middle. Turning out Oklahoma and Texas kids into players that not just are succeeding at Oklahoma State. Remember, they played in the Big 12 championship, but also are the kind of players that other big-time programs want. Now, I know that Mike Gundy doesn't like losing anybody to the portal any more than anybody else likes losing people to the portal, but it does speak volumes that you were able to develop that talent. Add to that you're going to get Derek Mason to call the defense. I think they got a shot here, but we'll get to another one that we got to keep our eye on here. I think I skipped one. I did skip one. That's on me. Director John, put that one down. Producer Cat, put that one down. That one's on me. Let's go to Baylor, plus 10,000. Defending Big 12 champs and defending Sugar Bowl champs with Siaki. Oh, yeah, my goodness. Siaki Ika and Jackson Player on this squad. Blake Shappen's been named basically the starter, but he's going to have to do this without Abram Smith. Now, I go to Dave Aranda on this, but I also think it's wild interesting that we're talking about Baylor being the class of the Big 12 conference and having plus 10,000 odds to make the college football playoff and win the national championship. That's wild to me because, if Oklahoma had done what they normally do and won their 7th consecutive, but, had won the Big 12 championship, you're not going to find anybody giving them plus 10,000 odds. You're just not. And knowing what they return at Baylor, right, and knowing what they added at Baylor, and knowing Dave Aranda is your defensive coordinator, how do you not feel good about this? We could be looking at Baylor and Oklahoma State in the Big 12 championship game again. I believe 1 through 4, basically Baylor, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, Texas, are all pretty good. And that's before I even talk about what Kansas has added. And we all know how I feel about Lance Leipold. What Texas Christian has added, they went big into the portal. You could have some really cool games there. Also, while I'm here, Baylor, right? Circle game is September 10th at BYU. Jeff Grimes makes his return, right, to BYU. That ought to be fun. And then Oklahoma State's circle game is September 10th versus Arizona State. Second time that Arizona State has kind of come up, right? Because we can never discount the magical powers of a Sun Devil. All right, next on the list. Now I'm back in order, right? Producer Cat and Director John are probably going, okay, cool, he settled down. Tennessee Volunteers at plus 10,000. And just as I settle down, Producer Cat's on edge. All right, so I believe Hendon Hooker and Josh Heupel could be for the Volunteers in 2022. What? Yeah, I'm going to say it. Lane Kiffin and Matt Corral were to Ole Miss in 2021. Yes, boo this man. Boo him. But see where I'm coming from with this. You just got a commitment from an outstanding quarterback prospect. You return a dude in Hendon Hooker that we didn't really know what to make of until he got to Tennessee. And we got to see that dude be tough. We got to see the moxie. We got to see that warp speed offense that they like to run up there now with the Volunteers. We also get to see them run the gauntlet in 2022. Look, you don't get to become a legend by playing Central Michigan and going to beat up on Boise State. No shade to those schools, but that's just not what you do. You get to be a legend in Knoxville when you got to run through September 10th, Pitt. Now, Jordan Addison aside, Kenny Pickett's gone. But that's also a team that won a New Year's Six Bowl. And you got to go to Heinz Field and you got to win that game. Okay. September 24th, versus Florida in Billy Napier's year one. I know Tennessee fans feel some kind of way about Florida. And you want to get good with Tennessee fans, go beat up on Florida. October 8th, you're at Tiger Stadium at LSU. Brian Kelly, his first year. October 15th, Bama. Tennessee ain't beat Bama since the iPhone was invented, dog. Like, it's got to happen sooner or later. And November 5th, at Georgia. November 19th, at a great South Carolina who, won the Duke Mayo Bowl and got to be bowl eligible in Shane Beamer's first year. If you can run that gauntlet, let's say you win, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You win 4 of those games, it's going to be really difficult for us to look and say you didn't do a good job. You win them all? Yeah, you become the favorite to win the national championship because you would have run roughshod over a New Year's Six Bowl team. You would have beaten Florida. You would have beaten LSU. You would have beaten the team that played in the national championship game and won the SEC championship. And you would have beaten the national champs. And oh, by the way, Shane Beamer and his Duke Mayo Bowl trophy, maybe you could take that too. I'm saying if you're a Tennessee fan, be optimistic and go hunting Smokey, okay? Put on your coonskin hat, go get your musket, and be about your Daniel Boone. That's all I'm saying, all right? Or not Daniel Boone, that's North Carolina. Davy Crockett, be about your Davy Crockett, all right? You can do that. I understand. I believe in you, Tennessee. I believe in you. I believe you better not get smoked. Utah, that's my last team here. Plus 10,000 odds to win the national championship game. Kind of like Baylor. I'm going, wait a second. If USC had won the Pac-12 championship, you would not give them plus 10,000 odds. Okay? Something about branding here. Something branding. We're looking at a Utah squad that lost a thriller in the granddaddy of them all. 48-45 to an Ohio State team that looked good enough to play in the national championship game till they lost to Michigan, of course. And then a Utah team that beat up on an Oregon team when all of our eyes were on Oregon. That was supposed to be their year. And Kyle Whittingham and his squad said, no, sir. I said, no, sir, not today, sir. No, they said the devil is a lie. And they went and they took that Pac-12 championship and they gave Ohio State everything they wanted. We could talk about Jackson Smith and Jigba going for 300 plus receiving. We could talk about CJ Stroud throwing the ball all over the yard. We need to talk more about Utah being in that game, in a game that isn't built for them. Like, if you tell me that the game is going to have plus 90, right, in the over, I'm going to tell you that Utah got beat by 4 touchdowns. That's not the case, dog. That's not the case. There's a reason why I think you need to be paying attention to what Utah is about this year. And I think they're going to be a little bit more fiery than even usual because one thing they've had to deal with is Oregon, right? And they understand it, right? Oregon has won the Pac-12 championship before, and they've been about something before, right? Where Mario Cristobal had a pretty doggone good run. But USC ain't done nothing. And USC is in their division. And all the love that Lincoln Riley and the Trojans are getting, I'll bet they feel some kind of way about that Salt Lake City, and they cannot wait to get their hands on these Hollywood types. Utah is in it to win it. I think all of these squads really have a good opportunity to win the national championship. And I'm saying that in May. I understand that. But if you're looking at what I'm looking at, this is really great value, man. Just go do that. Go put your money down on your 80-1 favorite, right? And then see if you can't go reap some rewards. I'll mention quickly that Utah's circle games are at Florida, right? Florida got 2 circle games on this schedule. September 19th versus San Diego State. That's a trap game. For RJ and the number 1 ranked show purposes, a trap game is not a game you can lose. It's a game where you can win and not gain anything. All you can do is lose. San Diego State was a really, really, really good football team last year. So much so that y'all kept making fun of me for having them be in my top 10, top 25. You don't want them problems if you're Utah. You better show up, put them away early, because San Diego State is kind of a Utah light. They want to run the football. They want to play defense, right? Brady Hoke built much the same way that Kyle Whittingham is. They want to impose their will. They want to grind you down. You cannot afford to lose that game. You cannot even afford to let that game be close. You're going to make a run at the national championship. Thanks for watching this video. And remember, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any other videos on the number 1 ranked show YouTube channel.